The Walking Dead season 4 episode 13 Alone. This is a really good episode. We got to see a lot about Bob. We got to learn about him, and they kind of tied both the ending or the beginning and the ending together, using Bob as sort of this symbol of solitude pretty much because as we knew from earlier in this season when we kind of first got our introduction to this character, we got his background piece by piece where the big thing about him was he went from one group to the next, and every time he was in a group, they would get wiped out somehow, and then he'd go off and, he's just alone. And we got that in the beginning of this episode where it's him in transition from his second group to his third group, which is, the group we have with all the main characters. And it was a really good opening. I enjoyed the music. It was just, like all the sound effects were just low, and, the music was more um, in the foreground compared to the actual sound effects in the episode. And it was just really cool. He's just walking around, and initially I thought maybe this was something that happened while he was with Maggie and Sasha, and they kind of got split up and stuff like that. But then I realized he's actually using his other arm, so it was before that or after that. Because sometimes they could do whatever they want, really. But you find out it is officially before the start of this actual season when he gets recruited and stuff, and it was really cool. And then when he does get recruited, one of my favorite parts about it is he gets the three questions that they've created for the group, and he doesn't have any questions, and he's like, like, no, I don't. It doesn't matter who you are. And he doesn't say why, but you could automatically tell, like, the reason why it doesn't matter is because he was in that mindset, like, it doesn't matter who any of these people are, because I just know if I'm here, then I'm just gonna end up alone, and they'll be dead anyway. So, you know, like, they can learn my name if that helps them trust me, but I don't need to know them because there's no point in me getting hurt again. And that was a pretty great opening. And then we get to the scene with the fog, which was fairly intense. I thought that was pretty cool. It was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to be like the main point of this episode. At least their story would be them actually surviving in this fog. But it was just a short scene in the beginning, but it was still really good. And you know we have our group with Bob, Maggie, and Sasha, and they're kind of going along. And then we have Maggie and Sasha, who are like polar opposites at this point, where Maggie's like, I gotta find Glenn. I believe he's alive. I have to find him. I have to, see where he is. And Sasha's like the exact opposite, with Tyrese like, my brother's dead, and that's all there is to it. Like, I don't need to look because I just know he's dead. And, Bob's trying to, he's trying to help both of them at the same time. Like, he wants to stick with Maggie because he knows what it's like to be alone, twice over. So he doesn't want either of them to kind of break off from the group themselves. So, he's trying to funnel everyone, funnel both of them together, even though they both have, like I said, polar opposite viewpoints at this moment in time. But, he's really trying to help Maggie, and then, Sasha's like the exact opposite, saying, like, we need to stop, we need to, not waste our time looking for Glenn, because odds are he's dead. And when Maggie does end up going off alone because she heard what Sasha said, Bob kind of convinces Sasha, like, we have to go find her. Like, this isn't really up for debate. We have to go find her because she's alone and she doesn't need to be. And, he doesn't really get into the fact that he knows what it's like, but obviously we as viewers know that's why he's so passionate about it. And he does mention it to her, but I think the way he mentions it to Sasha about how he was alone, and when she kind of brings up, like, do you even know why you're smiling and stuff, he mentioned this because he's not alone. Like, even if a lot of people are dead and stuff, or, they're missing, he's being really optimistic. Like, just because they're gone somewhere doesn't exactly mean we know they're dead. And, I'm with you, so I'm technically not alone right now, and that's why we kind of have to go get Maggie so she's not alone. But I thought it was a really good storyline. One of my favorite parts was definitely the end when Sasha and Maggie finally sort of came together, especially how that started when Sasha sort of found the building, and I thought, she would just stay there, and that was kind of going to be it. Like, she'd stay there, and then, she'd be found like later on or something, and that's just where she would survive by herself for a little bit, or she'd do that for a little bit and then leave or something. But she gets in this building, which was actually a really great place. Like she had like giant boards to board up the stairs and everything. She was in like the perfect place actually. But she looks out the window and she sees Maggie, and I love how they did that because I was not expecting like that entire window to just like fall out of the building. But I love that scene, and she kind of pushes up against the window and it just falls out and just breaks, and like, of course it makes Maggie jump because she's just kind of at that point after she killed the three zombies, she was just kind of just laying on the ground. Like she said, she was thinking of what Sasha said to Bob, and when she jumps up, then you just like as soon as she jumps up and looks at where the window was, you just instantly see like a female zombie come from behind the truck. There's like a guy zombie that walks like right into the camera, or right in into view, and it was like you instantly knew just a ton of zombies were about to come out of nowhere. And I love the scene, like as soon as Sasha gets outside, she runs past like the second doorway, and there are actually like two zombies walking right out of the door that try to grab her, and she kind of just jumps past them. I thought that was a really cool scene too. But it was a cool little action scene where they are working together, and Maggie has like the sign and she like chops the last zombie's head off and stuff, and Sasha's using her stick and just bashing and stabbing and stuff. I thought it was a good scene. And then they they catch up to Bob, and he's like, he's happy and stuff, like you guys kind of worked out your differences, so we are able to stick together, even if it's just the three of us. We can head to Terminus, or Sanctuary, and find whoever's there, which at this point is pretty much going to be everybody, of course, because Rick, Carl, and Michonne already found it. Tyrese and the girls found it. Of course, I can't think of anyone's name for some reason. Tyrese, Carol, and the girls. I can't remember their names for sure. But, they found this sign, so that's where they're headed to. And at the end of this episode, we saw Glenn sort of, looking at the sign, and you could see it in his face. It was like, she's going to be there. And that was automatically his thought. You could just tell. But really good episode. I love that was, of course, the main story was them kind of focusing on Bob and him trying to help the girls kind of work together, and them all staying together as a team to get to this destination and hopefully find something better than just zombies and stuff. But the side story was also really good, of course, with Daryl and Beth, and it was really simple at first. They're going around, then they find the cemetery, which leads them to the funeral home. Excuse me. And things are fairly simple. They're going through, they find this house that's really well kept up, or the funeral home at least, and they find all this food and stuff, and everything seems simple. And then the very last day when they're there, or well, it's the very last day because they get attacked. They think it's the dog again, so Daryl goes to open up the door, and they just get swarmed by zombies. And that was also a really great scene. Like, I knew, of course, neither of them were going to end up getting killed off, but the scene was really great when he runs into the basement and uses the cadaver tables to block all the zombies, and he kind of pins himself against the wall so that they can't reach him, and he's just stabbing, and then he crawls under their legs and uses the other table to kind of pin them to the first one and stabs a couple more. And then he runs outside, and then we find out that Beth has been kidnapped and, put in a car, and the car's just driving off, and then he has to chase this car down. And, it had so many questions, like, who are these people? I assumed, I think I've mentioned this a couple of times, there are cannibals in the comics. I don't know if it's them. It could be someone random. Who knows who anybody is in this show, because, of course, stuff is different from the comic book. And I have the second compendium, which that makes it an even greater experience watching this show and reading the comic, because I'm at kind of the exact same point in both. Sanctuary hasn't actually been mentioned where I am in the comic yet, but I'm getting up to it, so I'm like really close. But it could be the cannibals, it could be just some other random any person, like anybody really. It could be someone just insane. and they kidnap Beth, and then Daryl goes chasing after this car, and he runs for hours until it's daytime, and then once he gets to that fork in the road, he just doesn't know where to go. And something that caught my attention, initially I thought it was just a straight path, and he was kind of just really really tired, he didn't know what to do, so he just kind of fell down. But then they show the fork in the road, because I kind of missed it the very first time. But I thought maybe those people could also be from Sanctuary, and maybe they kidnapped her, because when you're kind of hysterical, you have no idea exactly what's going on. But she did drop her stuff, so it kind of pushes more towards the fact that she didn't willingly go with them, and they didn't say like, hey, we can help you, but come on. And she was hysterical, because even though she's being chased by zombies and her legs kind of messed up, she wouldn't be hysterical. So it wouldn't be like she wasn't paying attention to them saying like, hey, we can help you, we have a compound and this and that. She dropped her stuff, or her stuff was like scattered on the ground. It does lead to the fact that she was most likely kidnapped. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that happened, how that works out. And there are only 3 episodes, so I hope they do get to it in this season. And then what they did with Daryl, after he kind of been sitting there, he gets approached by this group, who is the same group from the episode with Rick when he was in the house. And I knew, of course, they were coming back, because they showed the one guy's face, and I believe it was the guy Joe that they showed. It could have been one of the other guys, but I'm pretty sure it was him, just because that's, they showed one of the people, and he ended up being the guy talking to Daryl. So I assume it was him. It just didn't look like him to me, but I also wasn't like really trying to focus on every detail of the guy's face. But I'm assuming that was him, and I'm almost 100% sure it's that group. So Daryl's kind of in with that group, and one of the most interesting things about that is the fact that I feel like it'll lead him back into being, the Daryl he originally was, even though he had a problem with becoming that when he was with Beth, and he sort of, switched around and decided, I can't blame myself for what happened. I do have to be here for Beth, and I do have to kind of keep up hope and be the good person that I've actually become. But now he's kind of in a group where everyone is almost exactly like his brother. I think it could end up turning him back to the way he originally was, and he's going to kind of go around, and he might actually end up killing people with them until he gets to someone who's actually, one of the main characters, and then he'll kind of switch up and have to find some way to survive as he turns on this group of like 5 or 6 people who have like bows and assault rifles and all that type of crazy stuff. But I'm really excited to see how that one turns out, because that should be really interesting, just to see how he changes as a character now that he really is alone. Like, he doesn't know what happened to Beth, and he's with these people who, like I said, are a lot like his brother, who are just going around, we're just gonna beat up whoever, and we're gonna choke each other out for a bed that we found in the house. So when you're with people like that, especially with the background he has, it could sort of change him mentally, and he does sort of revert back to who he used to be, like I said, until he meets someone else who was, of course, on the in his squad before. But excited to see that. Definitely enjoyed this episode. Next week I'm really excited for with Tyrese. They're going back to his group, and Carol and the girls, so I'm excited to see how that plays out. And maybe she'll finally reveal what happened and what she did. But we'll have to wait and see. But as far as this episode goes, definitely great. Both storylines good. Side story started off fairly simple. It seemed like Beth and Daryl had everything good, and then Beth gets kidnapped, and Daryl's kind of stuck in this group of really bad guys. So comment below, let me know what you guys thought of it. Favorite parts, least favorite parts, and definitely tell me, what do you guys think is going to happen to Daryl and Beth? Where do you think they're going to end up by the end of this season? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.